Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced, head of DevRel here at Dremio, and I wanted to go through this presentation, The Legend of the Agentic Lakehouse. This fun presentation about just sort of the features of what Dremio brings. Again, first, what is like the Agentic Lakehouse? What Dremio brings that creates just your data lakehouse patterns and makes it agentic, and why does it do it well? Okay, but first let's just kind of set up what the problem is. We'll press start and start the game and set the setting for what's going on. So bottom line is we live in a fractured world where people have data in all sorts of different places. They have data in their data lakes, they got data in their data warehouses, they have data in their databases. And there is this challenge of just trying to be able to kind of work with all of it without having to actually constantly be moving the data. It's not just the cost of moving the data in the form of compute costs and then the storage costs, having the same data stored in multiple places and the consistency issues, but also the time that it takes, the potential broken pipelines, lots of potential issues. So this is where, Dremio comes to the rescue. Okay, at the core of it, having a very powerful SQL-based query engine based on Apache Arrow that gives you the ability to federate queries across all these different sources. Okay, so it's a unified engine that gives you universal access at very high performance speeds with a built-in semantic layer that gives you deep business context. Okay, now let's talk more about that federation piece. So again, Dremio at its core has very strong query federation powers. So essentially what it does, it leverages Apache Arrow. So basically, as it retrieves data from different source systems such as databases, data warehouses, data lakes, other data lake houses, all that data ends up being converted into Arrow for very fast in-memory processing. So essentially, a query will get pushed down to Postgres. As that data retrieves from Postgres, it gets turned into an Apache Arrow table. And now you have Apache Arrow buffers from different sources that can be quickly worked together to then run the remaining portion of the query. Okay, or if it's reading from a data lake, Dremio is just going to read those Parquet files directly into Apache Arrow for processing right there from Dremio. But the bottom line is that it's fast. Okay, and you can connect data from anywhere in this very performant way. And this allows you to work with your data where it is now. This avoids the need to, in order to adopt a more modern sort of practice, a more modern system, you don't have to do this big bang migration where everything has to be moved up front to get the value of your platform. You can get a lot of the value out of Dremio on day one with your data where it is. And Dremio constantly behind the scenes is optimizing how it queries your data, optimizing data sets, accelerating queries. Behind the scenes, the Dremio tries to take a lot of that work of trying to stay performant off the table, so that we don't have to spend less time doing manual tuning. And again, no upfront ETL. Now, as you'll see later on, I will generally always recommend that people adopt a Iceberg Lakehouse and eventually have more and more of the data sitting as Iceberg tables. But because you have this strong federation foundation, you don't have to do that right away. And you can get the vast majority of the value pretty quickly. Now, there's different ways that Dremio sort of achieves a sort of really high performance. Now, one of it is Apache Arrow, as I mentioned. So we use Apache Arrow for processing data in memory. Now, if you're querying data lake sources, there is a cache called the columnar cloud cache. So in that case, chances are you're querying Parquet data sets, whether they're Iceberg tables or just plain Parquet data sets. Dremio will recognize patterns and say, hey, you know what, this Parquet file or this portion of the Parquet file, whether it's a certain columns or certain row groups, and recognize certain things that are accessed very frequently and cache them on the nodes in a Dremio cluster. And this results in one, less round trips to your object storage, which reduces your costs, increases performance of your queries. And then the secret sauce of Dremio is reflections. Okay, reflections are essentially iceberg-based materialization. So essentially, what happens is that think of it like kind of like a materialized view, where there's a physical materialization of a set of data. The difference is that one, it doesn't create another namespace. So you don't have to suddenly tell your analyst that there's a separate materialized view table that they need to update their queries with. Dremio is aware that this materialization is created in this optimized iceberg manner that's flexible. So you can actually choose like specific columns to materialize and specific partition filterings or partitioning to apply to the materialization and things like that to make it as optimized as possible for certain query patterns. But Dremio will be able to evaluate, hey, are there any existing reflections that apply to the query that's coming in now? And it can transparently substitute those reflections based on the queries coming in. This allows you to have more reusability of these materializations, meaning you need less of them, which saves you money but gives you a bigger performance boost. And as your data becomes more and more iceberg, basically Dremio is then able to not only give you the ability to create reflections, but it can create reflections and manage reflections for you autonomously, allowing, again, performance optimization that just kind of happen automatically. You just kind of set it and forget it. And that's the beauty of the system. You're getting fast performance across all your data where it is now. Okay, let's continue on. Now, because of that, this provides the easiest path to an iceberg lakehouse. So you're someone who wants to do an iceberg lakehouse. You've heard all this cool stuff about, how I can save money, how I can increase interoperability by adopting an iceberg lakehouse and just sort of standardizing our the way we store our data for analytics in Iceberg on our data lake. But oftentimes, most tools, they either read Iceberg or they don't, or they use their proprietary format. So either way, basically, in order to really take advantage of X platform, you're either going to have to migrate all of your data either to their proprietary format or to Iceberg before you can really get the full benefit of that platform and get the benefits of Iceberg. But again, with Dremio's query federation capabilities, you can start with your data where it is and then move data sets to Iceberg incrementally, one by one, without disrupting your workloads. Because Dremio also has a virtualization layer, it's semantic layer, where basically all your data will appear sort of as SQL views, and you can curate SQL views on top of SQL views to create the specific versions of your data you need for different use cases. So then what happens is that when you move a data set from the legacy system to Iceberg, all you have to do is update sort of the bronze raw layer views and point them to the new destination, to the Iceberg table versus the legacy version of the table. And all the downstream dashboards and other downstream workloads and reporting, they're not affected at all. They just continue moving on, but now you get the benefits of having moved that data set over to Iceberg, where Dremio can even do more for autonomously managing the performance of that table, whether it's optimizing that table, again, doing autonomous management of reflections, additional caching layers like results caching and query plan caching. You get all these sort of additional benefits as you move to Iceberg, and you can do so incrementally. So you can start getting the value of Iceberg today without having to do this wholesale migration that might take years and cost a lot in the planning and execution of. So it just makes it easier to get to that benefit, that promise. Okay, let's get to the next slide. Okay, now all of this is tracked in Dremio's open catalog. And it's called open catalog because it's open in the sense that one, it doesn't just act as an Apache Iceberg catalog. It is, at its core, partially a deployment of Apache Polaris, the open source Iceberg catalog standard. And because of that, you're able to track and govern your Iceberg tables. But also, Dremio's open catalog is part Dremio's federation. It tracks your different data sources and allows you to create SQL views, not just on your Iceberg tables, but on the data sets that you have in Postgres, Snowflake, and other places. So it allows you to have one place where you can define all the data sets that power all your workloads and be able to govern them with role-based access controls, fine-grained access controls with row and column masking, and much more. So you can govern all your data in one place, but because it's based on Polaris, you get that Apache Iceberg REST interface that allows you to connect that catalog to tools like Apache Spark, to Apache Flink, and any other sort of Iceberg supporting tool to do other workloads, whether it's like ingestion or just other types of workloads, whether it's like a graph query using something like Puppy Graph. You can do that all using Dremio Catalog. You don't have to move. All your Iceberg tables can be tracked there and governed there and used everywhere. So it's an open catalog. You can connect all your data, and your data can then generally be used everywhere. It's open. Now, Dremio, when you have Iceberg tables that are tracked by Dremio's open catalog, Dremio takes care of them. Dremio will automatically optimize those tables using things like compaction, clustering. We'll also help manage your storage by doing things like vacuuming, where it'll expire old snapshots and then clean out the data files for those snapshots. So that way you don't have to worry about these things. So that way, truly, your Iceberg Lakehouse feels like just a normal data warehouse where things just kind of work. Okay, your data, basically your data is constantly being optimized, queries are constantly being optimized. You just have to worry about sort of modeling your data and executing your end workloads. And it does get even better because Dremio has introduced the whole concept of an agentic lakehouse, which means adding this layer of agentic AI on top of your data estate. So already you could query your entire data estate very easily, very quickly, and get to the benefits of that Iceberg Lakehouse. But now you have this built-in AI agent in the Dremio interface where you can ask natural language questions. And because Dremio has a built-in semantic layer that's powered by SQL views, helping redefine column names and define canonical versions of your data, but along with wikis that are attached to those SQL views and tags. All this context gives deep context to that AI agent so that way it can better execute those natural language queries more of the time. And not only that, generate visualizations. So you get all this benefit when you're using the Dremio Agentic Lakehouse. So you basically have this ability to just get to agentic analytics, being able to just ask natural language questions pretty much right away. All you have to do is just connect your data and then define the data sets that define your workloads through SQL views using Dremio semantic layer, and you're off to the races using natural language analytics. You could do that in an afternoon. Now, again, one of the secret keys to all of that is the semantic layer. So again, the semantic layer is made up of SQL views on top of your data across all your sources, your Dremio catalog, Iceberg tables, but also all the tables you have in all your other data sources that are connected to Dremio. They allow you to create the definitions of your different business metrics and different business data sets. But they all also have attached to them a wiki where you can define additional data and tags. Also, not only just making them more usable by the AI agent, but also making them more discoverable by your end users. And we make curating those tags and curating those wikis really easy because not only do we give you the AI agent to query the data, but the AI agent can also help you generate those wikis, generate those tags. So that way it's much easier to curate that semantic layer for maximum value. Now, the Dremio AI agent allows you to take advantage of all these features within the Dremio UI. But what if you were more comfortable using something like a ChatGPT or a Claude or other custom agentic interfaces? Well, you can bring all that functionality there too using Dremio's MCP server. You can just connect the MCP server to your favorite agentic interface, like a Claude, like a ChatGPT, and now you have the benefit of being able to ask natural language questions that take advantage of the semantic layer for that deep business context to get really accurate answers right there. And it's not over yet. Okay, so basically, hey, again, when we talk about this whole agentic analytics layer, it's the whole Megillah. Okay, so again, you have the AI that allows you to ask questions within Dremio's UI. You got the MCP server that allows you to bring that functionality outside the UI, but you also have AI SQL functions that allow you to enable AI in your SQL queries, whether that is classifying data to do a sentiment analysis, whether that is creating summaries of a record, or using specifically the AI generate function to take unstructured data like PDFs and turn that into structured data. So that way you don't have to create these long, separate, complex OCR pipelines that read these PDFs separately. You can just do that straight in your SQL queries right off your data where it already is. You know, a bunch of PDFs sitting in your data lake. You just point Dremio to where it is. It will pass. It'll pass those PDFs to the AI and allow the AI to generate a record in the desired schema that you specify, making it easier for you to work with your structured and unstructured data in this entire unified data world. Now, the cool thing is, Dremio has built a lot of tools, but on top of that, there's a bunch of community run tools that are out there as well, whether they're Python SDKs, CLIs, JavaScript SDKs, agent skills that you can use with like a Claude code or an open code. These tools are out there, giving you even more benefit of using that Dremio Agentic Lakehouse, or allowing you to leverage the benefits of that lakehouse in more contexts. So overall, you get this one platform that allows you to run agentic analytics, meaning natural language analytics, on top of your data, but not just data that's in one place, but across your data, across your entire data estate really easily. All you have to do is really just sign up, which you can sign up for free and get a free 30-day trial, connect your data, and then you can actually start asking questions there. But you can then even enhance it even further by curating the semantic layer with SQL views and filling those wikis that are all going to continue to provide a deeper business context to the Dremio AI agent or to your own personal agentic interface using the Dremio MCP server. So Dremio gives you all the pieces to have access to all your data, performant access to all your data that's governed, all with a nice agentic interface. So that way you can democratize the access to that data and make it as easy to access that data to, to make those insights actionable faster or sooner than later, really. Okay, so if you haven't already, make sure you head over to dremio.com/get started to go try out a free 30-day trial. Again, that's at dremio.com/get started. And then, yeah, try that out. Best way to kind of see what I'm talking about is to try it firsthand, upload some of your own data, run some queries on it, try to run some natural language queries on it, ask it to generate a bar chart off a CSV or a Parquet file you have fun, okay? No cost. You don't have to bring any infrastructure. You don't have to bring your credit card. You can just log in. We'll provide the infrastructure. We provide you $400 of credits that you can use over 30 days. Head over to dremio.com/get started and try that today. I'll see you all there.